Zoon, let's talk about Pakistan's relationship with China. China, of course, is a close partner of Pakistan. It's the driving force behind CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And as Shuja just pointed out a moment ago, it is also Pakistan's biggest lender, $30 billion worth of outstanding debt. That's about a third of the country's total debt. What is the view from Beijing?
Thank you, Anand, firstly, for having me on the program. So the first thing I'd like to point out is that, of course, I mean, if you look at the national news, the main headlines in China, Pakistan's current situation is not a headline. But that said, there are many deep analyses trying to further delve into, what are the major challenges. And I think some of our speakers, commentators already pointed them out. Many Chinese analysts talk about how this is not a problem. Of course, since the Russia-Ukraine crisis, we saw an escalation of the problem that Pakistan is facing, an escalation of political, or you can say polarization as well. Then obviously COVID-19 and the floods have had a devastating consequence on the economy. But really the view in China is that there are long-standing, deep-rooted issues that Pakistan has to address. So first of all, yes, political, many countries have political differences between different political parties, but in Pakistan we see that time and again different parties reach a deadlock. And I think this is something that often comes up, that there should be some sort of higher level of political consensus for any country to move forward. And I think any Pakistani will agree to this as well. Long-term economic vision. We do need a long-term sense of economic policy. So when you talk about CPEC, one of the major challenges we faced moving from phase 1 to phase 2 was that really those special economic zones were about being able to attract external industries from China and other countries to Pakistan. But somehow we have not been able to bring policies that really make potential investors trust that long term, this is going to have a high return on investment. Then obviously security concerns. I mean, this is something, external factors that are out of Pakistan's control, but they are affecting the domestic situation and the positivity with which, any investor, including Chinese investors, will want to move forward. A number of other factors, but that said, the real perspective is that definitely this is a big challenge, but the problems are not just ones we can diagnose over the last year or 2 years. These are long-term issues, and what Pakistan really needs is to be able to attract investment. Of course, there are going to be short-term solutions that are much needed, austerity measures, as Chudana Nawaz mentioned. But the bigger issue is, are we really able to shift towards an economy which is producing in a better way? So many of the solutions are in front of us. Some of them the Chinese have already initiated, for instance, investing more in Pakistan's talent, thinking about, So we can delve into that a bit later. But the issues are long-term, deep-rooted, and CPEC in and of itself is a solution. We just need to find a better way to do it in a more pragmatic way.
Economically and politically, I mean, do you have any hope that some of the issues that we're talking about will be resolved this year?
Anand, that's a big one to unpack. I think if you also look at the perspective with which China is envisioning the Eurasian connectivity, I mean, that's what the Belt and Road Initiative is all about. Pakistan is integral to that vision. Pakistan is integral to connecting Central Asia, Europe, towards Middle Eastern and African markets. And I think that's really the vision of connectivity, the vision of thinking beyond your borders and thinking about the region at large. So Pakistan is undoubtedly integral to that. I think if you talk to most Chinese people, either they are policymakers or they are academics and even ordinary people, they would say, well, if you've had economic challenges, I mean, Pakistan is a country that's been to the IMF time and again. This hasn't happened yesterday. We have some deep-rooted challenges. But the kind of investment that CPEC brings into the country is a long-term solution. And this solution will take time. It will need, of course, better policies from our side, better political consensus and all of that. So I think it will take some time for us to realize that, political parties and all may have differences. Yes, we are following the constitution. Yes, we have differences. I mean, even on this panel, we have differences in opinion. But in the end, we all agree that we need long-term economic policies. Right. And that's not possible unless all parties are on board. So in the long term, am hopeful. I'm also looking at, I think for your viewers, it would be interesting to know that even though, the bigger infrastructure projects are not going forward at the same pace, but the interest of Chinese organizations, Chinese institutions to invest in Pakistan in terms of vocational education, agriculture, scientific cooperation, technical, that has enhanced. Today I was part of 2 events that are pushing this level of cooperation forward. So definitely they have hope. They're thinking about how even Goldman Sachs predicts that Pakistan by 2075 will be the 6th largest economy.
Right.
So the way forward for Pakistan, for the region, for all of us is to think beyond, think long term. And I think that's inevitable as we will learn our lessons time and again, but that's definitely where I see Pakistan in a decade or 2 from now.